Your turn. Nail us with questions. Tell me what you don't, tell us what you don't understand. Yeah.
What's the advantage of taking pre-AP versus college math?
Well, pre-AP is designed to prepare the students for AP classes. It moves a little bit more in depth. They have a project that will be done during SOL week. The county requires that we offer them alternatives. The alternative is science fair. So far, no one has come to me to say they want science fair. Last year, I didn't have any students do science fair. We all just did the qualitative analysis lab during SOL week.
Are they the same lectures?
Yes,
Okay.
and they're the same tests from the same test banks.
And the same worksheets, and the same answer keys.
But the grading's easier.
Grading's easier and the project is, or whatever it is.
Right, we take less time for prep for SOLs. We do the SOL prep time instead we use for an advanced lab.
I wonder if you could replay the video on the grading on the sheet.
Sure, I will, and also if you look at this, down at the bottom,
Yeah.
if you look at Unit 19, you will notice that under the A column, that's the only one that has a date. Right, so if you complete 19 units, you have an A for the class. If you complete only 18 units by May 30th, you have a B for the class. That's why that's in the B column. If you look down the C column, you'll notice that only 17 units complete by May 30th. And under the D column, you'll notice that only 16 units complete. Okay? You will notice, if you look at any row across there, you will notice the difference in dates after you get to about 4 and 5. Right? And when you get down to about 10, you'll notice there's a significant difference in the dates. What's going on is that if a student is progressing at a slower rate, it's hard to catch up. All right? So one of the things previous students last year, which our students all had the opportunity to see a video that includes some of our students from last year, who said, stay on pace, watch the podcast, do the worksheets, take notes. That's what you got to do, all right, to be successful. Right? Did that answer your question?
Most of it. The second part of that is if someone gets below an 80 on one of the tests, can they retake it?
They take it again until they get an 80.
Okay.
The exact same test.
The test bank.
The exact same test that covers the exact same material,
Okay,
but our test banks have literally thousands
Randomized.
of questions in them, and they're randomized every time.
Now, they do have the same proportion of questions as well.
Yeah.
The math pretest will have 2% problems and 3 ratio problems, but they're not going to get the same percent of ratio problems because there are so many available.
When we design our test banks, we design them based upon areas that we want to make sure we test, and how heavily we want to emphasize that based upon what is tested on the SOLs and what we feel they need to know for going forward. Yes, ma'am?
Did the kid, like my son, he's freaked out right now. Does he know that he can retake the test?
We have both made that clear,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And I've had students, the students are allowed to take them twice in one day.
Okay.
So if they come in and they take it and they don't pass it, then they are welcome to come back and take it again. They may take tests before school, after school, during class, or during any study hall. They may not skip a class. They may not skip their Latin class, for example, to come take my test. Okay? But if they want to come down during study hall, they are always welcome to do that. Right? And one of us is always available for the kids to take tests. Always. All day. Every day.
How long does it take for you all to get it graded so they can figure out if they need to go on or not?
It all depends
Most
on the
of them
test.
are online graded. The math test is online graded, the first 3 units. The second one, the science one, had a few questions that needed to be graded by hand. The third unit was the lab safety. Lab safety is a little bit different. The 85% does not count. We require 100% safety in our costumes, so they had to pass that one with 100%, and it's all essay. So they had to come up with the correct answer on their own. What do you do if you're on fire? And yeah, I don't think anybody missed that question, but
So generally, so moving forward past that with essays, from now on, is it going to be, so they'll get a turnaround within that day?
most of
Oh, yeah.
them will get it instantly.
Instantly?
Most of them are
So
going to be
after
graded by
that
computer.
safety one, it'll be more instant, they can move on?
Yes.
And they'll know exactly where they stand?
Yes.
Okay.
And
The
what we
safety
do
one is
is,
the only essay test of the year.
Do they Do they, sorry, just to follow up to that, do they get any sort of report or anything of saying, hey, you didn't do well in these areas? Do you get any feedback as far as what you need to work more on?
What we do is, the students can, and I'll speak for me, and then you can change this if it fits for you, all right? My laptop is always in Blackboard when I'm in this class. So a student says, I want to see what I got wrong in my test. I pull up their test, they take my laptop, they look at it. If I have 6 kids who want to look at their test all at the same time, I just bring up my account on each of theirs, right? What we don't do is we don't allow the students to just go and bring up the whole test, because we know from experience that what they will do is they will simply copy the whole things, print them out, and then we have a problem with our test banks being out there, all right? So, so we allow them to look at them, and they may do that as long as they want, and they write down what they got wrong. After the first couple of times, well, again, I'm probably different. For my class, they get to take it twice, all right? After the second time, if they have to take it a third time, they have to come to me. I release their test for them once they have completed a sheet that says, this is what I missed. So I force them to look at their old test and tell me what they got wrong and how they're going to fix it next time, so they don't make the same mistake again. The goal here is not to take a test 50 times. That's a waste of everybody's time and energy. The goal here is to pass it on either the first or the second time. Okay.
You sure
By the way, I
you
do
did
apologize for there not being any air
Yeah, very
conditioning in here.
similar.
There is nothing we can do about it. We asked, but the air conditioning doesn't work right in this building anyway. So,
I haven't done the forcing them to review their old tests. Most of my students have been doing a very good job of coming up and asking me to see their old tests. But if I feel that it's becoming a problem, I will start forcing them to review their old tests.
So it's okay during class, after you take the test, to come up to you for questions at any time?
Oh, yes, and I encourage them to look at their old tests and then write down what it was they missed, and then pull up the worksheets from that section and figure out what it was that they had a miscommunication, a misunderstanding. I had a student today who did that exact thing. She pulled up her test, she jotted down where it was, she pulled up the worksheets, she still didn't get it, she worked a problem, she called her friend over, and she realized she had set up the ratio upside down. Fixed the problem right away.
Probably my daughter.
with my students, what
I
I
know
do
who it
is,
was.
I really want them to work together, but if they have taken the test and they want to see what it is, they interrupt me. Even if I'm working with another student, they will come up and they will stand there with their laptop, okay, which is a signal to me. I can multi-process. I can keep talking to this student while I log in as me and open up their test and give it back to them. And that's actually what I will do, all right? Because they take precedence. They should be able to go in and look at their test immediately.
What are the numbers underneath the
How many
days?
days, what day we are in the school year.
Okay.
You will notice it does not go up to 180. And the reason for that is we have pulled certain dates out to work on the project. We've pulled certain dates out for SOL review. We've pulled certain dates out for exams because they don't count.
Okay.
All right? So that is the total number of days that they have during the school year to actually get things done. Okay, those are, if I remember correctly, they're cumulative dates.
So what's like in the last one though, I follow you on the total days, so in the last one it says 161 is to the right, but there's a first number, it's 12. What is
Okay.
that, 12?
So if I look at that particular unit, let's look at unit 16. For unit 16, if you're on the A pace, it takes you 12 days to complete unit 16.
Oh, I got you.
Okay? If you're on a B pace or a C pace, it takes you 12 days to complete unit 16. If you're on a D pace, it took you 13. So if you look up the thing, you'll notice that the number of days, for example, unit 14, if you're on an A pace, you finish it quicker, it's 14 days. B pace, it would take you 15 days, C pace, it would take you 16. And that's why your dates keep elongating.
Oh,
That's
gotcha,
how we
and then
get-
that's figuring out if you're on an A pace, that's why you finish so much earlier, taking
Yes.
you less time for each
Right.
section. Okay.
And the reason we did that is because that helps us when we're doing this next year. In all honesty, that's what that does for me. Okay? It also gives that information to students. And since you brought that up, one of the problems that we run into during the school year is we run into interruptions. And I'll give you a perfect example. On September 29th, I believe, September 28th, excuse me, we have a pep rally that's going to blast out, I don't remember that, whether it's an A day or a B day, but we're going to lose the last block of the day. If you happen to be in chemistry and you lose that block, you lose that block. I can't do anything about it. It's not my choice to hold a pep rally that day. All right? So when the school decides to hold a pep rally, you lose that day. When the school decides to hold PSAT testing at the beginning of the day and it runs over and they have a 2-hour window allotted to it and it takes 3 hours, and like last year on PSAT testing day, we walked into first block and did attendance and walked out. First block was literally 5 minutes long. My first block students lost first block that day. I'm sorry, I can't fix that. So you've got 100 and whatever days of school, 180 days of school, you have to figure that out. You have to go out and make sure that you get your work done.
Yeah, the lectures are on, they're on YouTube? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. All the lectures will be on YouTube. The lectures are also on this hard drive. So the students have a choice. If they want to just look at it on YouTube, they can look at it on YouTube.
To get it done in school?
Yes, you can.
block.
You can get to YouTube.
No, here.
No.
No?
Block.
Okay, sorry.
We were
Okay.
able to last year, it's been
Okay,
blocked.
they blocked it this year?
Uh,
They're on here.
So they can.
So the
look at
entire
it.
unit is on here. So the student just takes this, plugs it into their hard drive, downloads everything to their desktop, not to my documents, downloads it to their desktop, right? And then they have the entire unit
Okay.
sitting in front of them.
So just to clarify, they can take the test any time here during the school, while they're at school, they cannot take anything
At home.
at home.
They may not take the test at home. No, they take the test at school.
They can do everything at home except labs and tests.
Was last year the first year you did
That we
this?
did this,
For us,
yes.
yes.
And how did it go, how did it
It was
work?
fabulous.
So your numbers, A's, B's, I mean, you don't know if you know off the top, did you have about what you expected in A's, more than
Yeah, I had
50%?
I had pretty much the same type of grade curve that I would normally have, except that it was heavy on the A end,
It was heavy on the.
and it was a little heavy on the F end. There were very few in the middle range. My kids who were in the B, C range ended up with A's. And my kids who usually squeaked by with the D did not make it. They ended up with F's.
I had a bimodal distribution.
Yeah.
I had the low end and the high end, very little in the middle, and that was true all year. Because the students either are going to do it, or they're just not going to bother. And that's kind of where I ended up as well. Our SOL pass rate, I believe yours was better than it was last year. Mine was better than it has ever been. And especially, my SOL pass rate was normal. My SOL advanced pass rate was higher than it's ever been. So my college-bound kids did significantly better on the SOLs than they've ever done before. Right? And when we compare it to a traditional classroom, our SOL score, well, I was the only one doing college-bound, because you're doing all advanced. So we have another teacher who's doing college-bound, and our scores were significantly better. Right? Now, it's only 1 year, so it's not fair to say there's a trend there. Right? But from 1 year's worth of data, our students did well.
I want to clarify too, when I say that I have more students fail, I had 3 total fail out of 4 classes, which is a high number for me, and all 3 of them passed the SOL.
I had 1 student fail last year, and only 1 not pass the SOL. All the rest passed.
So it sounds like it's a motivational issue.
Yeah.
It really is. One of your students, Baxter, said collaboration is key.
Yeah.
Right? It is working together, it is getting out there and doing it. You really have to do it. You can't say, well, I think I'm going to pick it up at the end of the 9 weeks, or at the end of the semester, or at the end of the year. It doesn't work that way. You don't have that kind of time.
Well, and you can't just sit and watch the podcast. You actually have to do the worksheets. You have to do the labs. You have to think about the questions and talk about the questions. And it's not a passive learning environment at all.
We are treating this very much like a college course. The students have the worksheets, the students have the answer keys, the students have a video showing them how to work out the answer keys, how to work out the answers. They could just sit at home and write down all the answers and walk in and say, here's my answer keys, and they're all right, because I checked them. Of course you did, you copied the answers. Okay? Did they learn anything? No. So they have to take some responsibility and realize, yes, you are being given a lot of information. There's a huge amount of information that we are providing for the students. They have to use it properly. Because they can, quote-unquote, cheat, and then they come in and they take their test, and they're toast. Okay? And that's the way that we know that they didn't do what they're supposed to do. We're actually checking notes this year as well of the students when they watch podcasts. They have to take notes. I am actively checking notes. right? You must show me your notebook, okay? And you must check off your labs, okay, before I will let you go. Because I know you can copy the answers on the worksheet, so I'm not gonna bother with those. That doesn't do any good. I'm gonna check your notes to make sure you watch the podcast.